Howdy guys, and welcome to All You Need to Know to Build a Website. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm Liv, Digital Marketing Specialist here at Neighbourhood and the Hub Coordinator here at Brisbane's Hubspot User Group. And I'm super excited today to be joined by Tyson Cobb, CEO of Practice and Pixels. Hi Ty, how's it going?
Great, Liv, how are you going?
Awesome, very well, thank you. Good to hear you. Just some housekeeping before we get started today. You'll be able to see that comment section on the side of your screen. Right? Trav's in there manning the chat today, monitoring all of your questions. So if you have anything you want to say, any comments, any questions specifically for Tyson himself, you can chuck them in there. We'll try our best to answer them as we go through, but we should have some time at the end as well to answer them specifically. So be sure to check that area out. We'll also send you through the recording at the end of today's session. So in our recap email, check that out. The recording will also be live on our YouTube channel. So just so everyone's aware, in case you need to nip out, you can check that one out. So in terms of what we're going to be running through today, this event is all about mastering step 0, or rather the prep work and the planning required to execute a great website as seamlessly as possible. In terms of why, well, it's particularly relevant for us at the moment here at Neighbourhood, because we're actually looking to redesign our current website. In terms of why, it could be because of our customer journey. We're looking to better align our website towards our customers who are limited on time but need results. So aligning it better to them. But in terms of me, I know I'm a bit of a website novice. I don't come from a website background. I'm quite limited in my website knowledge. So I thought, what better opportunity than to invite Tyson, an expert in this field, to teach me something, and hopefully he'll teach you guys something too. I'm sure he will. And yeah, we can learn together. So in terms of the steps of what we're going to be running through today, because it's going to be a bit more lax, a bit more of a conversation, we're going to be looking at uncovering how you can build a solid foundation for your website, how to plan for success, how HubSpot can help, because this is a HubSpot user group, and how to choose the right agency to help you, because it's not always fit for everyone to create your own website. Probably how I know I have a personal website I made on Wix. So it's very helpful to look into that as well. So I'm going to start by hitting up the chat, guys. Let us know where you're from. I know last time we had quite a global audience, so keen to hear from you. Let us know how you are. But without any further ado, I'm going to throw to Ty, if you wanted to introduce yourself and also why you started Practice and Pixels.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Liv. Great intro. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on. You can hear me loud and clearly? Brilliant. Great. My name's Tyson, in case you already didn't know that. So I have a pretty extensive background in marketing, actually. That's where I started my career as a young 17-year-old, fresh out of school. So over the past 16 or so years, I've been working across retail and hospitality and the financial sector as well, from a marketing perspective, but also in advertising too. I've had a stint in advertising. It takes a very special kind of person to stick with advertising. It wasn't for me, but play hard, party hard, all that sort of stuff. It was a bit difficult, but anyway, I got back into marketing about 10 years ago, and since then have been working with professional service businesses like accountants and lawyers and so on, helping them with their marketing. One of the ways that we actually help them with Practice and Pixels is through their website, which is what we're kind of talking about today. So I actually started Practice and Pixels. It was only recent. It was last year. So my company is a pandemic company,
Wow.
and we started about 18 months ago, and it's been in my mind. It has been in my mind for years, and I'm a bit upset with myself that I didn't do it a couple of years ago, actually. But we started Practice and Pixels as a way to offer really tailored and strategic marketing and digital support to the accounting industry, because I was the head of marketing in an accounting firm for 6 years prior to that. So being within the industry and witnessing kind of how they approach marketing and digital marketing and websites and brand and so on. It's just a bit frustrating to me to see because, you know, it was misleading advice and cookie cutter brands and all this sort of stuff that led me to the point where we go, let's start our own movement where we can help them. So that's where Practice and Pixels was born, kind of trying to find what makes firms in the accounting industry, but we work with other industries as well. They just kind of gravitate towards us, helping kind of find what makes them unique and celebrate that through their brand, through their website, through their digital marketing and so on. So that's where we're at now, 18 months on. It's been a fantastic ride. So
amazing. What a good story. And in terms of, you say you started in COVID, did you find, I know a lot of the research we did at the time in terms of like marketing really boomed in COVID as well. I assume it was kind of the same for websites. Did you find it was super profitable when you first started out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The good thing is I was a part of a previous company. I was a director in a previous company, and we negotiated with some of the clients could come with me and my new company, which worked out well. So we already had that revenue stream there, which was great. And I already had a team that could work with those clients. But from a website perspective, absolutely. What we found was that, especially in the accounting industry, right? There's all these, businesses and clients trying to navigate through JobKeeper and all these sort of government grants and support, all of last year and even this year as well. I mean, there's just so much going on and it's hard to navigate, lots of panic. So we found that accountants were some accountants, the more proactive ones, were really quick to kind of, jump on that kind of duty of care bandwagon and really start amplifying their digital presence and marketing and so on. And there were other accountants who broke away from the larger firms and thought, well, I want to do things my way. I've seen how you've been doing it and I think I could do it better. And sure enough, I'm sure they could. So they decided to start their own firm. So lots of startup firms coming to us wanting websites. The more progressive thinking, progressive firms and future focused. And, the growth for us as an agency within the accounting industry, we're also working with lawyers and so on now. It's been fantastic since.
Yeah.
And I know I don't mean to sound, not that sensitive to businesses who have struggled. I mean, let's face it, businesses have really been impacted by it, and it's heartbreaking to see. But for us, I can't. It's just our experience. It's been great.
No, that's glorious. That's wonderful. Well, that's really interesting then in terms of the trigger points sort of for you starting your own website and starting your own business. But I know for us, as I mentioned before, when we decided to redesign our website, our beloved website that we've actually had since I first started here a couple of years ago and initially drew me in. But we've been looking to redesign it based on our kind of buyer personas and understanding more about their company. And we actually had some feedback about our website. People thought we might have been a recruitment agency. Find Your People was a bit misleading, apparently. So I think we were trying to kind of build ours around educating our customers around what we do, getting them to kind of a goal sooner. Like we're kind of the people you want to work with. So in terms of some trigger points that you usually find that people kind of realize to think, okay, I need to redesign my site or I need a site, what do you find they usually are?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really varies depending on your industry, your business model and so on. In our experience, especially over the past 18 months, we did websites in the previous business I was in as well, but Practice and Pixels, what we've found over the past 18 months was one of those trigger points was it doesn't reflect our brand. It doesn't match our brand and who we are as a business at this stage. Firms have come to us and they've been open for business for say the past 6 or so years on average, something like that, and they've evolved over the past 5 years, and they've just simply found that our business model is different to what it was 5 years ago, and our website doesn't reflect that. So we need to be able to communicate that online, because some of the conversations I'm having with some of these firms and lawyers and financial planners as well is they get that a website is, some of them get what the benefit of having a website that really kind of delivers that consistent experience across website, digital marketing, brand, service, and so on. I think one of the trigger points was it doesn't match your brand. And to your points as well, another one was we're not getting the I guess the leads through our website, and that always comes back to the conversation around audience, or who you actually talking to, how do they perceive you, the way that people buy and interact with brands has changed over the past 18 months. So because of COVID, so websites and the way businesses are talking about their brand on their website has to evolve as well.
Absolutely.
So there's been some firms who have been quick to pivot, I hate that word, pivot, but have been quick to do it and realise that, well, our website needs to talk to our ideal audience more. So I think the brand conversation doesn't match our brand. Our audience has kind of evolved, so we need to evolve with it. But also, one of the biggest ones is it's huge. I see it nearly every day, and there's just too much friction on their website. People can't get to where they need to go quick enough. They can't find what they're looking for. They get led down a deep, dark rabbit hole. I see this daily. They can't even find contact details. You want people to get in touch with you on a website, right?
Ideal, yeah.
So I think just having too much friction on your website, having too much friction in the experience anyway, it's a bad experience. So
absolutely.
That's been a big one as well.
Yeah, you mentioned something before as well about friction, I suppose. But I guess for those industries too, kind of speaking as a bit of a novice, but for accountants and lawyers who might seem quite, big and scary to some audiences, I suppose the website is a good opportunity to kind of humanize and like show behind the curtain to those kind of companies. So yeah, that's really interesting. I was going to throw to the audience as well. You guys hit up that comment section. I know half of you were kind of looking to redesign. Possibly, was there a particular trigger point that you discovered that you think other people might need to realize to be able to think in that kind of way? Was it that your audience doesn't really understand who you are, you need to educate them better? I was also thinking too, some things that might be obvious to me from kind of a marketing standpoint, but are there any statistics you think that people with websites should look out for to kind of rethink what they have and maybe look in things like conversion rates, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Conversion rates is the biggest one. Well, for us anyway, because if your website, some people do just want a website to educate, to build their personal brands, to, there's so many reasons. The purpose for a website could be how long is a piece of string, really. So, conversion rates, absolutely. We always have a look at things like, even things as simple as new versus returning visitors to your website. Do you have that kind of brand recall? People are coming back, they're liking what they see, and that talks to the bigger kind of marketing strategy picture as well. Things like bounce rates on your website too. Whilst bounce rate isn't a big thing that we look at, it's something that we need to consider. Are people getting to your website and then maybe they'll see what they like and they'll leave straight away, or maybe they won't see what they like and they'll bounce straight off. So we have to kind of consider that as well.
Yeah.
But absolutely, conversion rates would be number one for me. If you've got a high volume of traffic and a low conversion rate, whether that be inquiries, subscriptions, purchases, whatever you're doing, whatever you're selling on your website, then you need to figure out what and at what point users are dropping off your website. And as I said, sometimes that's a marketing issue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think you've definitely introduced kind of the first phase of the planning stage of the overall website build. So all the prep required, the first kind of phase I've titled as kind of building the foundation. And this is where you're speaking about understanding both who you are as a business, kind of projecting yourself on your website versus who you're trying to create your website actually for, so your personas. So obviously in marketing, a lot of our marketing is spearheaded by our personas. It's who we're talking to. But in terms of branding, your purpose and your buyer persona, why do you think these are so important to a website, and how would you kind of define them?
Look, I think to create a website that works, it does start with a deep understanding of a few things. One of those things being the purpose of an organization, and the positioning in the minds of your ideal clients, and that's where your brand strategy and also your buyer personas comes into play as well. So I think, look, if you're an established business and you're considering doing a new website, then you need to look at all the variables I spoke about before, traffic, conversions, frictionless experiences, and so on. But you also need to consider, right now, are you clear on your purpose? Do you have a purpose as a business? Are you a purpose-driven company? A clear purpose, in my opinion, is everything to a brand. It's your soul. It's your identity. It's your DNA. But
is it similar to a mission statement, the kind of things that some companies put on their website, or is it a bit more deep than that? It doesn't need to be kind of disclosed.
It's a bit deeper than that. Yeah. So a DNA, it kind of, you hear the Simon Sinek guy. I think he talks about your why. Leading with your why. Whilst I do agree with that. I think companies should lead with their why, but not every organization views a purpose or a why or a reason to exist as an all-encompassing sort of ideal. Some consider it merely a tool to advertise who they are, what they stand for, and to capture more market share. But in my view, right, this is purely my opinion, so but you need to have a clearly defined purpose as a brand before you go investing thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on a new website, because you'll find that if you lead with purpose and build around it, you can achieve that continued loyalty, consistency, relevancy in the lives of your customers or your clients, and then that will have a huge impact and influence on your website too, on your messaging, on the user experience, and how you articulate your services on the website, the imagery, the look, the feel, and so on. I mean, to put it simply, I think that your purpose is your core differentiator. Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, we work with many accountants and lawyers, as I said, and I can't tell you how many accounting websites I've seen where they say, not your average accountant, or we help you achieve your goals, or we help you make sense of the numbers. Well, that's expected. That's what you do. Why do you truly exist? What's your core differentiator? This just tells me, by seeing that, this just tells me that they haven't really spent enough time developing their brand and their DNA. And this is why so many sites begin to sound, look, and feel the same. And then that's money not really well spent, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see then why you got into that niche. That makes so much sense. In terms of how people can then look to better hone these, I know for buyer personas, sometimes it can be very wishy-washy and very flowery in terms of who you're targeting. We actually conduct buyer persona workshops that we do kind of every 6 months or so. In terms of how you'd go about kind of defining your purpose and your branding, is that kind of the process?
Yeah, it all starts, well, look, when it comes to a redesign of a website, I mean, we've run into this quite a few times with clients trying to develop messaging for them in their new website, and they just aren't clear on their core messaging framework, or even not clear on their core DNA as a brand. So we'll work with them before even starting a website project to dive deep into their brand, to find a different position and develop their core messaging framework. But a lot of that discussion is around their clients, who they're trying to attract, who they're for.
Yeah.
A powerful brand. I mean, this is a brand webinar, but it's so important to look at your brand before you look at a new website, because a powerful brand is for someone.
Yeah.
Right. So it's you need to have a purpose as a brand, and sometimes that can stem from the owner, from the individual. I was just talking the other day to an accountant, and I asked him the question, what is your purpose as a firm? Why do you exist? And he basically just said, because before he was an accountant, he owned his own cleaning business. And this was 10 or 12 years ago. He owned his own cleaning business, and he wants to target, cleaners and gyms and these other kind of industries as well. He's walked in their shoes, so he knows how frustrating it can be. So he wants to be able to help them build a lifestyle that they want to build. By taking all the headaches, because he's walked in their shoes, by taking all the headaches based on his real life experience and his knowledge of the numbers. So I think that's a pretty unique purpose for an accountant. Without saying we're not your average accountant, that's a bit different, right?
Absolutely.
So I think you need to figure out why you're doing what you're doing as the business owner, as the leader. If you're a marketer, talk to the business owners as well, and then figure out what that internal purpose is. But I think if there's no point in doing a new website if this is what's letting your site performance down in the first place. Your brand, your messaging. If your website sounds the same as the other business around the corner, there's absolutely no power in your brand then. So you got no leverage. So your design can look pretty by all means, but even the most attractive people can be assholes. And be bad at relationships, and you just don't want to know them. Same thing with a website. So I mean, we always talk with clients about you should always look at mapping your brand battlefield. So this is where your ideal clients go when they need help. So who are your ideal clients or customers? Why do they value you over and above anything else? And how can you help them? Then you look at your competitors. How do they say that they help your ideal clients? And if you look at their message and what they're saying on their website and what you're saying on your website, if there's absolutely no differentiation there or unique sort of messaging, then you're going to find it difficult to convert or compete or to really kind of make a lasting impression or an impact. So I think it pretty much all stems back to the audience, really, to the customer. Go out and talk to your customers, ask them why they chose you, why they stick with you. I think that's one of the most valuable exercises to do before you start a new website. Develop a really deep understanding of what's going on in their mind. What do they value? What can you bring to the relationship that no other firms or no other businesses can or struggle to? And then lay that foundation to differentiate your business on your website.
Absolutely. That was very valuable. Awesome. Thank you. And that's like the perfect foundation for then leading into kind of planning for success. Would kind of be interested to hear from you guys as well, whether you currently have well-defined personas. I know it's something we really focus on often here at Neighbourhood. And it's definitely in terms of being agile and pivoting our strategy. That's the word pivot again. They do lead and spearhead all of our marketing efforts. So very keen to hear who your buyer personas are perhaps and what you're doing to use them as part of your website or marketing efforts. So in terms of kind of phase 2 and planning for success, with the foundation clear, we've got some audience stats. So as I said, there's a clear split of people here looking to redesign their current website or perhaps looking to build a new site from scratch. So I was keen to ask you, Ty, and this is quite a big question, do you define as being sort of the high level or essential steps other than branding, personas and purpose, those like best practices to take to cover when planning for a website redesign or planning for a website from scratch in terms of the planning stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you fail to plan, then your website's going to be rubbish, in my opinion. If you jump straight into the design, not going to have a really worthy website. It's not going to do what you need it to do. So we spend most of our time in the planning stages before we even get to anything that looks pretty. I think these days you just need to. So, I mean, there's no simple recipe for success.
No.
It varies in the complexity of the site, the industry, if you're doing e-commerce or not, service-based and so on, personal brand, just a blog. Every site and project's different. I think determining what a successful website is for you and for your business. If you want to be, if you want it to be just a good-looking website, then that's your measure of success. That's good. Not the best goal, but if that's what you want, go for it. But you need to be 100% clear on what you want your website to do for you. If you just say brand awareness, that's a measure of success. As I said, it's not the best, wishy-washy. I think you really need to be clear on what that is. Similar to your purpose of the brand, what is the purpose of your website? Everything has a purpose. I'm starting to see that word purpose. I should say that. Maybe it's because we watched the Matrix movies a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I, and Agent Smith talks about purpose a lot in that. I don't know, it's just kind of rubbed off on me, I think. But understand, so yeah, you need to kind of understand what is your website being used for, what is the purpose of it, and then you need to kind of understand and formalize a strategy for your website. Okay, we always look at things like ask the questions to clients: is it for increasing business profit? That's probably suitable. That's probably more suitable if you're an e-commerce or online business, right? Generating leads. This is where our clients mostly fall into it. You know, it's suitable for mostly small businesses. Informing readers. If you're just doing a blog or a personal brand, or you're an events company or something like that, and informing readers could be good for you. So I think, yeah, setting those clear goals on what your website's to do, and then create a budget. You need to know what you're going to work with, because that will determine, where you go, the avenues that you're led down, and so on, and how customized and extensive you can be with your website. I mean, there's more than just, if you're engaging an agency and you're not doing it yourself, there's more than just agency costs, the design and the development. There's more than that. There's more than SEO costs. You need to factor in hosting. You need to factor in, you need to purchase your domain, obviously, if you haven't done that already. If you're redoing your website, we talked about this before, like humanizing and that sort of stuff. What about photography? That's not cheap either. You need to make sure that you're getting that right if you want to do original photography instead of, maybe you want to use stock images. I don't condone the use of stock images too much, but it's people do it. It's easy. And video as well. Are you doing a brand video for your website? Do you want on your homepage, your about us page, your product-related videos? So all these costs come into a website project. Depends on how you put those on the balance sheet, but that's
absolutely.
So you need to create a budget, and then once you've kind of got all that together, you kind of know where you can go. Then well, how many pages am I looking for on my website? Who's going to help me, and so on. So I think importantly, you need to create your content strategy and plan your content. So that's when we talk about page structure and messaging outlines and that sort of stuff, and your blog and that sort of stuff as well. So I think you need to kind of create your content strategy, and do your research too. Make sure you're researching, as we said before, on your audience, on your clients, doing your buy personas, researching your competitors. What are they saying on their website? Researching for inspiration. What do you want to see on your website? What do you like? What do you don't like? So I think you need to be really, really clear on what vision, what is the vision you have in your head for your new website? Because depending on who you go with, if you go with the right agency, they'll be able to really effectively interpret what's in your head. They'll be able to pull that out of your head. A designer, just going with a designer, maybe not. Depends on who you go with. So I think you really need to be clear on what you want on your websites, where the researching for inspiration comes into it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other things you can kind of do. It really depends on how big your website project is. You can go down the route of site mapping, structuring your content, your conversion objectives, and so on for each page and for your site overall. I haven't even got to the design yet, right? So this is like all the planning that you have to do up front before you do anything pretty. You can do wireframing, which I think we may. But then, what you want, what the purpose is for your website. You've got some inspiration. You've had a look at what your competitors are doing. You know what your clients are thinking, what's going on in their head, what their pain points are, and so on. So you've developed your content plan and your content strategy. So then you can start approaching, well, who's going to help me implement this? Based on your budget, who can help me implement this? And I think we're talking about how to choose the right agency partner later. And then you start to get into the fun stuff. So you need to do, in my opinion, you need to do a fair bit of work before you can kind of get there.
Just a bit.
That's that kind of initial kind of planning. But one thing I did miss, sorry, is don't forget your marketing, because I'm a marketer from the past. Don't forget your marketing strategy. The whole, if you build it, they will come, doesn't work with websites. You need to market that bad boy. You know, it's a product you need to market as well. So make sure you've got a marketing strategy to generate traffic, ideal traffic for your website.
Awesome. Well, yeah, on that then, this is probably just going to be an extension of what you've said. But in terms of the content strategy, I've heard of some strategies whereby people maybe, to get a website up as soon as possible, maybe put up a launchpad site. They then look to kind of continuously improve over time. In terms of maybe the most important content to kind of get up first as part of your website, which sort of pages, obviously it'd be different for heaps of different websites, but are there specific pages that you think are the most important to focus on first?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can, you know, we work with professional service businesses, so I think this is relevant for them, but it could also be relevant for other businesses as well. Essentially, obviously, your homepage. That's number one. That's you. That's your digital shop front. To be cliche, you know, that's your digital handshake. That's your first chance to make a first impression. So you need to make sure that, you know, you're making the best first impression possible. You know, you've got hopefully ideal clients coming to your website, so you need to show them the information that they're looking for, show them what they want to hear, show them that you understand them, that you've walked in their shoes, or you can put yourself into their shoes. So I think your homepage is critical to be able to keep people on your website.
Yeah.
Your About Us page as well is a critical one, especially from a professional services perspective, because it's very relationship driven, their business models, right? You know, the whole terms trusted advisors and so on. So your About Us page is really where you want to align them, your audience, your clients, with you as a firm or as a brand. So that's your About Us page, is where you kind of dive a lot deeper into who you are and you know, why you should work together. The contact page, because duh. And then you want people to get in contact with you, and give them options to get into contact with you as well. You know, don't just put a phone number. People maybe don't like to call you, so because they don't want to be sold to. So don't just put a phone number on there. Give them options. Give them a form. Give them a phone number. Give them an email address. Let them connect with you on social media. Give them chat as well. Chat is great if you can manage that. But remember, if you have chat, their intent for chat is for instant answers, instant gratification. So you need to make sure that you can manage that. You don't want to leave it sitting there for 7 days. So yeah, give them options to contact you, I think, is important. And of course a blog. You know, this is a Hubspot session, so I'd probably be lynched if I didn't say you need content, articles and you know, valuable content on your website. Of
course.
And it's right. I mean, if you're still developing your service offering and how you articulate that, I think homepage, About Us page, contact page, yes, and blog, because you need to demonstrate your credibility and expertise.
Absolutely.
And people want answers to the questions they have, as we all know. So why not answer those on your blog and keep people engaged on your website? And that then you can capture data and subscribers for when you do launch additional services and new pages on your website. You can communicate that with them. So I think that's pretty important. But overall, just make sure that you're giving users the information that they're looking for. You know, don't make them go and find it. As I mentioned before, remove as much friction as possible from the experience.
That's really interesting. I know for our blog specifically, our blog makes up a massive part of our website. I know for us, when I first started, it was solely kind of me writing those blogs, but it was more so, we're relatively young as well, young business. So it was more so for us to get kind of our SEO scores up there and kind of get the word out in terms of keywords and that kind of thing. So that's 100% really good shout. I just had a random question when you mentioned the live chat option. Only because we, since the dawn of time, have really enjoyed our live chat, but we've always with kind of a human face and said, you know, that's Trav, that's kind of the business owner, this is him, it's not a robot, it's definitely a human. However, I've seen some like contradicting articles since saying now people know it's a robot, they prefer to actually see that it's a robot. Do you recommend that people make it humanized, or do you think it's better that you're honest about what this actually is?
Only if you can.
Right.
I think only if you can. There's no point in putting a face up there. There's no Like, Liv, there's no point in putting you on the chat, right, and your face there and assigning it to you to respond if you've gone on holidays or if you're not going to get back to them, which I know you will respond to. Like, you're more proactive like that. But there's other business owners out there and then marketers and so on, and business development type people who may just not be as proactive, and then people are left there waiting. So I think only if you can do it.
Okay.
You should humanize it. Otherwise, use the bot system and capture an email address or a phone number that you can call them back on.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a really good answer. Awesome. Yeah, both, either which. You also mentioned hosting. This is one particular thing that my non-IT brain doesn't really get with. So in terms of hosting providers, which you'd recommend, and what is a hosting provider for those who may not know, and also just kind of what to consider.
Yeah, look, this is funny. A couple of years ago, when I was, we were doing a website for it was a trucking company. It was before Practice and Pixels days, right? It was about three or 4 years ago. And we were talking to them in the initial stages, and I said, "Have you purchased your domain?" And they go, "Yes." I said, "Have you got hosting?" And I said, and then they said, "Yeah, I just said we purchased it." I went, they thought that hosting and the domain was kind of the same thing.
Okay, that's low key, same as me a little bit. I am,
Look, it's common. Since then, a lot of the time I'm answering that question. They often get confused. People often get confused with hosting and domain provider. I mean, you can have, so you purchase your domain from, there's multiple different websites you can purchase a domain from. Everyone knows GoDaddy or Crazy Domains and all those websites. So you can have both your domain and your hosting in the same place. But as I said, many people don't know that they're separate things. Your hosting provider, I mean, that's a service that makes your website accessible via the internet. Okay. A good way to think of it is probably if the domain name was the address of your house, then the web hosting is the actual house that address points to. Okay. All websites on the internet need web hosting. Okay. If you just have a domain, your website's not going to be live. You need to put it somewhere, post it somewhere that people can get to it. And that's where your hosting comes into play. So, I mean, there are so many different hosting options online. Some of the more obvious ones that come to mind would probably be, there's one called Hostinger, I think it's called. So it's like Stinger, but host at the start. Be careful how I say that. Hostinger. So Google that. It's a really cheap option. Like really cheap. It's like $1 per month. Okay.
Wow.
If you're just starting out, by all means, have a go. Why not? Bluehost is another option. There's HostGator. I mean, these are more affordable plans. You can go online and search for these and see what you need, but they're really affordable plans. If you want something better, something more secure and reliable and faster, you could go with something like SiteGround. That's in our experience, that's a good option. But if there's any web developers or tech people on this call, you'll probably agree that, well, hopefully you'll agree. If not, please don't shoot me. That WP Engine is probably the best for a small business website. It's more expensive, sure, but it's more secure and it's fast and it's reliable. And I mean, these are the things you need to consider when you're looking at hosting. You need to look at things like your speed, your security. So that's where the Ssl certificates come into play. So you see, if your website says, I'm going to put it simply, if your website goes http / / www, whatever it is, and it's not HTTPS, you've got a security issue. You need to check with your hosting provider. It's not encrypted with Ssl certificates, so you need to make sure you do that. Another level of security is also backups. So there's something to look for in your hosting provider, making sure that they're doing daily backups or however often you want to do it. If you've got a ton of products, e-commerce and so on, then maybe you need to do backups more regularly. Customer support is a big thing as well when you're choosing your hosting provider. Making sure that the customer support is helpful. So let's not forget you're talking to IT people. And then I've got nothing against IT people, but there are some who aren't great at customer support. So you need to make sure that you've got good customer support. And you need to factor in email as well. Because if you've got your domain, your email domain is tied into that too. practicepixels.com.au. I've got email Tyson at practicepixels.com.au. So I need to make sure that my email is not affected with or is included in my hosting too.
Of course.
I think speed and security and all that sort of stuff. That is one of the biggest things with hosting, and reliability and stability. Because these are all ranking factors as well with your website. How stable is your website? Because you don't want to be losing traffic or losing revenue. There was I think it was nearly 10 years ago now. Amazon went down. I think it was for 30, 40 minutes or something. That was I think it was like a $65,000 per minute loss in revenue for every minute that was down. So that's,
bonkers.
If you're, on your way to being the next Amazon, you need to make sure you got stable hosting. So you need to look at things. I think it's called their uptime scores, and hosting providers should have this on their website. What is their uptime scores? Is it good? Is it bad? That's to tell whether the website host is stable or not. So that's, it's
no, perfect.
It depends on what kind. If you're doing a Wix website or a Squarespace website, God forbid, they have all the hosting and domain purchasing and all that stuff built in. So you could go with them if you want to, if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, amazing. I just had a question from Gabrielle. Thank you, Gabrielle. And she just asked it before when we were discussing a launchpad strategy, so kind of the most important content to have on a website from day dot. And she mentions about testimonials and reviews, and also for service-based businesses, would you have it as a page on its own or on your homepage?
Don't have it as a page on your own. It just screams vanity to me. It's try and work it into the flow of your website. So to give you an example, we're working on a new accounting firm's website. I was just looking at it this morning, giving my team some feedback. And it goes through kind of, has their differentiating statement and very clear what they do at the top. When somebody lands on the website, they understand exactly what they do in a very unique way. The next section is kind of talking a little bit more depth of their understanding of the client that they want to work with. The next, they go into the services, so that's how they do it. So it's kind of going why they do it, how they do it, and then you can, depending on what business you are, you can have case studies, how you've done it. You can have a testimonial slider on your homepage to say this is what people are saying when you've done it for them. And I would put that, like on our website, for example, we're actually currently building more case studies and testimonials now. And we're going to strategically place them on different parts. So on the website page, we'll just have our website clients, maybe a testimonial slider, or maybe just one static call out testimonial is the best testimonial I've heard in my life. And then, so I think strategically place them through your website. I wouldn't have them as a separate.
That's really interesting. I know for us as well, when we're looking at redesigning our site, from what I've seen in Wireframe, our internal teams looking at actually having case studies relating to blogs. So based on the actual tag, if it's, for example, an SEO blog, we could then link out at the bottom in a CTA or something to a case study about SEO services, just so it's a bit more natural and not, as you say, kind of a vanity push. But no, that's really interesting. A question more so for me as well, because I'm not very design inclined at all. And when I'm kind of giving my feedback.
That's my creative team. That's not me.
But they're sort of looking to me for feedback, saying, "Olive, what do you think about the new site? Like, is there anything you change?" And I'm like, I love version 1. Like, there is nothing I would change. I thought version 1 was great, and now we're at version 10. And in terms of me being able to give give feedback and kind of give design advice, I'm kind of putting across, I like the clean look. It looks really airy, but it's nothing solid. So in terms, and I know like the designers in here are looking at me being like, this is no help at all. So in terms of where people should possibly look to get kind of inspired about how to redesign their site, and also explaining their ideas to a designer, are there particular like best practices around that?
Yeah. First of all, Liv, if you say I like version 1 and they're on version 10, that's terrible feedback.
I am giving
that is
no help, apparently. Yeah.
No help. That's like, we've just spent another $10,000 and you can copy it now. Anyway. No, that's fine. You're just being honest. Yeah, look, I'm not the creative in our business at all. I'm more the strategy head, but when it, I do have a creative background anyway. But I mean, it comes back to doing your research. What I spoke about before, we've been onto enough websites over the past few years, all of us, I'm sure of it. We know what's good, what we like, what we don't like. Do a Google search. There is so many articles out there showing kind of how do we like inspiring websites for 2021 to website designs in 2021 to inspire your next website design kind of thing. You can go deeper into industry, legal website designs, e-commerce, vets, dentists, whatever. There's all these sites out there that have some lists you can go through and click on those websites, and they usually have a good summary of why it's good. It's all a matter of a lot of them don't really have the analytics because they can't get into obviously the back end to see how it's performing, but they can go on and have a look at the flow, the content, and so on. And some of it's subjective, like a nice garden, oh, that looks nice, but I don't like it. So it's just kind of finding what you like, what's right for you, seeing what's trending in the design space at the moment for a website. Like your website, Liv, like I love the Neighbourhood website. And
me too.
If you got look, if Trav is twisting your arm saying we're going to change this, like, all right, fine, Trav, we'll do it. But I love your website, and I get why you're changing it, so that makes perfect sense. But how kind of fresh and different your website is, I think, is lovely. It's really refreshing to see, and it's something for someone like myself. It keeps me engaged because you guys bring the human factor. I think you've got the people on the website. Trav's got the dog on there. Is it a pug? It's a pug or a French bulldog?
Frenchie, yeah.
Frenchie. So he's got him on there as well. And I think it's really authentic in that sense.
Thank you.
I think having a look at websites like that to kind of get a feel for, how does this make you feel when you're on the website, and then put yourself in your client's shoes and go, how would it make them feel when we're on a website like this?
For sure.
So I think that's really important to, when you're looking at those websites for inspo, put yourself into the client's shoes and figure out how, ask yourself, how would they engage with us if we have a website like this? But, as I said, do a Google search and see what's trending at the moment from a design perspective. You can have a look at what's that website, Behance, or whatever the awards or whatever those other ones are.
I was just about to say awards too. Yeah, that's where I've gone to try and give some better, more constructive feedback. That's like, but that's a bit off-putting sometimes. So isn't it like AWWARDS? Is that that's the website? I think so. Saying double W as well was a trip. But yeah, I think it's 2 W's or 3. Yeah.
They've got websites from all around the world in different categories. You can search for minimalist designs. You can search by industry. You can search by e-commerce versus service-based businesses and that sort of stuff, and just get some inspo on what works for you.
Huge. That's awesome. Great. So I have some kind of more nitty-gritty questions that I know will be a little difficult to answer in terms of kind of different industries and that kind of thing. But in terms of how long people should realistically expect kind of a redesign or a website build to take, what's kind of the overall time frame?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Look, if you do it yourself, It depends on how much patience do you have? No, actually that as well. How much patience do you have? It depends on your expertise as well. But again, if you're really, and how creative you are, if you're really clear on what you want, sometimes it can be hard to demonstrate that on a website yourself. You need somebody who's impartial to come in and be like, if you may be too close to it, you need someone to come in and do it for you. But if you're doing it yourself, it really depends on your expertise and how many late nights you want to spend downing bottles of wine and whiskey. So yeah, you could build a website, planning stages aside, which should take weeks, right? The research and the planning stages should take weeks, it's not a month. To build the website and design it, you can do it in a couple of weeks if you're doing it yourself. If you're doing it with an agency and they're doing it right, you could be anywhere between 6 to 14 weeks, depending on the complexity, the size, the customization, the resource, the budget. We're still working on a website that we started in February, but that's only because the client changed the scope. So that's not our fault. But it really depends. I mean, these days, as I said, the planning stages is the one that should take the longest. These days, the development phase usually is one of those that doesn't really take as long as it used to. It's actually a lot shorter in time than you spend on the planning and the site mapping and the design phases. The development of your site is where it's fun and really comes to life.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, 6 to 14 weeks. I think if you're working with an agency, that sounds about right. Yeah. We usually try, we really do try, and hit the 12-week mark if we can.
Wow.
Depends on our workload, customization, size of the firm, and so on.
Of course. No, awesome. In that same vein then, and this is again kind of a completely contextual question, from a budget point of view, for example, small to medium business, 10 employees max, what sort of budget would people realistically be looking at when engaging an agency?
Okay. Okay, so look, if you're doing it from scratch, you don't have a previous website or anything like that, and you're starting fresh, you're a startup business. There are agencies who do that, who work with startups, and we've done a couple of startup websites purely for the fact that their clients who are aligned with us. They're a little bit different and more progressive, so we decided to take them on. But I wouldn't be spending anything less than $5,000 to $6,000 on the actual design and the development. And the strategy. That doesn't really include messaging and copywriting and that sort of stuff for your website too. So I would suggest you, as a client, get involved in that process because you understand your clients and your customers better than an agency would. So you need to get involved in that. An agency can wordsmith it and make it condense. A lot of clients will come to us and say, "Here's a big chunk of copy." So no one wants to read a chunk of copy on the website. So our copywriter will kind of work with them to say in a more succinct way. It's easier to kind of digest. So yeah, 5 to 6 plus any of those additional costs, things like hosting and domains, support and maintenance packages for your agency after the website's finished. You can get a website for as little as $1,000 if you want. Usually you could get that through Upwork or one of those sort of gig focused websites, but you will get what you pay for.
Yes.
Usually these aren't really custom designs, custom websites. They're templated. You'll just look like for an accounting firm, for example, you'll just look like any other accounting firm out there. You won't really have the strategy piece in there. And so I think, 5 to 6 if you're a startup and you're starting from scratch. If you're an established business and maybe you're changing your business model, there's a little bit of strategy work needs to go into the messaging and so on, like a lot more strategy work actually. 10 to 15,000, I would say. Be willing to invest. This is a thing that's going to last hopefully 5 years, if not maybe a couple of years more. So you need to be willing to invest it. Decide how many more clients do I need to make a return on that investment. If it's you need to figure out what that payback period actually is.
Exactly.
To figure out what your budget is. So some agencies can charge $40,000 or even more. I've seen that happen. There's a accounting firm in Brisbane who I think they weren't a client of ours, but I know some people in that firm. I think they said they paid about $45,000 for their website. That's huge.
That is
But hey, if agencies can charge that and people buy it, they only need to do a few websites, depending on their team size and their overheads. They only need to do a few websites a year to be able to turn a pretty decent profit. So.
Yeah, wreck on. Goodness me, that's really interesting. Well, but
we don't charge 40 grand, by the way, guys. Don't get scared. I have a moral obligation to say we do not charge 40. That is just wow.
Well, that's really interesting to know, though, like the base and what people should be looking out for. That's really, really interesting. On that then, in terms of from a goal perspective, obviously it's kind of difficult to set KPIs and goals throughout the website builds, because the goal is kind of to have a website while you're building it. In terms of what KPIs though people could set, or goals people could set once the website perhaps goes live, or throughout the website process, what would they be?
Yeah, okay. So let's get the obvious ones out of the way. How many visitors you want to get through to the website, and how many conversions you want to get off the back of that.
Okay.
That depends on your business, on your business objectives as well. Your goals for the next 90 days or 12 months, however you want to kind of work that. So yeah, definitely traffic versus conversions. I would say as well, if you've got really good content on your website, and I'm not just talking about your blogs, I'm talking about your messaging, your imagery, your iconography, how your website animates as well, so the aesthetics of the website.
For sure.
If you can keep people coming back, I think returning visitors is a great KPI to have, because that shows that you've got that loyalty as a brand, and your website is keep people coming back, which is another opportunity to sell. So I think that's a pretty good one as well. You need to set sort of how many visitors you want in the first few months. I wouldn't say the first month, give it 90 days. And then, as I said, how many leads and inquiries on the back of that. Okay. Traffic sources. How are people coming to your website? Where are they coming from? And then another one, which is pretty obvious one, I think, but it's email opt-ins as well. So can you capture data from your website? It doesn't need to be an inquiry. It could be something from one of your landing pages that you've got a call to action on your website to a landing page, capture data, awesome. Or it is just like a website footer email subscription.
Yeah, perfect. That's really interesting. Some of those I wouldn't have even thought of. That's awesome. And I suppose that also leads into kind of the next phase. There are some questions in that bit that I wanted to ask that I might even email you, Ty. We can get those answers and send them over to people. But I just want to move on because I know we've got a little bit of time left. But in terms of the third phase, kind of how HubSpot can help, because we are in this group and we are building our website on the HubSpot CMS. So I kind of just wanted to introduce HubSpot and how it can help in this process and why it will kind of answer some of the things that Ty's mentioned. So we can see, obviously, based on that form that you guys submitted, that there is a mix of people using CMSs. So we've got Wix, HubSpot, WordPress, Squarespace, and more, which is really interesting. But in terms of where we think your website should be hosted and kind of like a best practice, we are kind of positioning the HubSpot CMS. So I would be interested to hear from you, Ty, in terms of, obviously you use different CMSs as well, but in terms of kind of what experience you've had with HubSpot, what you think HubSpot perhaps has over its competitors.
Yeah, look, I mean, you guys obviously the specialists in HubSpot, but from our experience, the one thing that actually benefits a business if you're building your website using the HubSpot CMS, I think it's sort of that all-encompassing one-stop platform. Everything with the HubSpot platform, having it in the one place, and then it's all integrated seamlessly. I think that is fantastic, because a lot of, I think I got an email from a client months ago now, and we didn't do their website for them. They came to us for other services, and they said, "Can you please check our website to see where our inquiries are going through?" And it's something as simple as just, that sort of question that sort of starts a conversation around, well, you need to a lot of work on your website, buddy.
Mm.
Because no one linked up their website forms to go to a specific person or to go to a CRM. So it's kind of like,
yeah,
I think that's just good to have it all in the one platform. It's all integrated seamlessly. I think that's fantastic. But I know HubSpot has the use of the smart content, and you can sort of personalize that experience a lot better. Personalize, your call to actions, the offers that are on your website. Present these offers and these call to actions based on the data and the behavior of your audience and your contacts that are within HubSpot. I think that is a huge advantage for being on the HubSpot platform, as opposed to something like WordPress, where there's a lot of integrations you kind of need to make happen to make that experience a lot more personalized.
Yeah.
But I think, from what from what you guys have told me and from what we've experienced as well, is that when you're building on the HubSpot CMS, I mean, it's become very easy for even novices these days. So it's if someone starting their own website doing it themselves were to jump on WordPress, their mind would just blow up if they didn't know where to look. But HubSpot make it easy for you to actually do that. So
absolutely.
Advantage as
well. Yeah, I know. When I first started here, actually, I wrote a blog about the HubSpot CMS, and kind of it had been around for a while, but I was definitely very new to it, and wrote kind of a blog of the main benefits of it. And as you exactly said, you are managing all your content in one place. And the big thing, I know when I've created websites for myself very poorly in places like Wix, it's a completely separate entity, so it's not related to anything else. Also, as you say, personalizing for every visitor, connected to the HubSpot CRM, so forms are going somewhere. You're actually collating information about people easily. You don't have to think about it. You can start from scratch or use a template. So for really, novices, you can actually develop yourself. You don't need to engage a developer, which I like personally. Also, there's something called responsive design in HubSpot. And I know Amanda mentioned this a couple questions ago. Thank you, Amanda. And from my understanding of what responsive design is, it's sort of allowing your website to be fluid between like a desktop view versus mobile optimization. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
absolutely.
Perfect. Also, HubSpot has SEO recommendations, which I know is super important too. Easy to analyze. So pretty good HubSpot. And I'll just mention as well, in August, HubSpot actually, this is directed at the audience, guys. HubSpot actually brought out the starter CMS package. You do only get access to about 15 pages, I believe. So it's good for kind of small to medium businesses. But literally $25 a month, I believe. I'm not sure if that's US or Australian dollars. But amazing as an option, especially if you're on a budget. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Ty, for your insights there. The last kind of phase I wanted to talk about, probably one of the most important, if you're not looking to do it on your own, is finding the right agency to work with. So we'd be keen to throw to the audience first. You guys let us know whether if you already have a website and are looking to perhaps redesign it, did you inquire agency first, or did you build it on your own? Let us know. But in terms of you, Ty, how to choose a web design agency, are there any particular best practices that you think would be helpful?
Yes. Yes, I do. Being a agency, so we're not just a web design agency, but being an agency ourselves, look, I would suggest you look at their website, look at the agency's website. Is it good? Is it crap? If the agency's website looks like any other website, like if you change their messaging and change their imagery and their colors and their logo, so, it could easily be another business altogether. Like, well, it would be another business altogether, but it's not unique. Like, it's not different. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't make me go, wow. So I would definitely look at their website to see, does it inspire you, or does it look like every other website you've seen? Right.
Yeah.
Look at their work. So that's really important as well. And you got to be a bit careful when you look at their work, because the client, depending on when they handed the website over to the client, they may have screwed it up. back at, like 12 months ago or something, and it's just they didn't want to pay for ongoing maintenance services. We've done that. So yeah, be a bit kind there, but definitely look at their work. Look at their process as well. Big on process, making sure that you understand that and you're aligned with that, and that's what you need. Do they have, or do they offer training and support? I think is important as well. Making sure that they're sort of showing you how to do things on your website and supporting you after the website's launched.
Okay, so would that be through the website build process? Presumably not showing kind of the behind the scenes, more so how to use it from just their point of view?
Yeah, I think you'll find that a lot of agencies won't show you how to build something because you're kind of taking away from what they do.
Of course.
I would say that it's during you can sort of teach them from a strategy perspective, conversion objectives and content outlines on the page. This is why we do it like this. We always sort of talk through our clients in the wireframing and site mapping to go, this is why we would structure your page this way, and they understand that and they appreciate the knowledge then, and it helps them kind of buy into it, which is great. But absolutely after, we offer maintenance and support packages for our client websites after the fact to, one, support them in anything they need. Because if you go and get your hosting elsewhere, right? You host your website with Hostinger, as I said, or GoDaddy or something like that. Don't go GoDaddy. Then they won't update your website in terms of any core updates it needs to do or anything. They will just host it, right? An agency partner should actually be offering you some support packages after your website launches to make sure that it keeps up and is always updated with the ever-evolving nature of the internet. You don't want any broken links or any pages that are down or anything like that. So definitely support after the fact as well. The biggest one to look for in an agency, and I know you guys do this too, is the strategy piece. So making sure that they're not just making stuff look pretty. It's you can create a strategy for a design, but you can't create a design or the other way around. You know what I mean? It's kind of like strategy always comes first. So I think you need to make sure that agency is that's in their process and they're talking about strategy rather than just what looks good.
Perfect. And on that as well, I know you mentioned experience, obviously a good thing, and the biggest, like the most obvious one is their website what you want to see as well? Like, is it good? But how important is culture and fit as well?
Oh, huge. Absolutely huge. I'm big on culture. Okay, I've been in many companies in my career, and culture is one of the things I hold close to my heart. You need to, because this is a big thing, right? Like, if you're going to invest tens of thousands of dollars in a website, you want to make sure that experience is a good one. And you don't want to be fighting. Well, fight with your developer if you want to, but you don't want to be kind of, when you get an email or a phone call from your developer and the developer does the same thing, or the agency gets an email from the client, you don't want your stomach churning and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk to these people, So culture is huge. You make sure that you have a cultural alignment and your values are aligned. I've always been a little bit skeptical about working with lawyers with practice and pixels. Even though we do target accountants, we have lawyers who just come to us anyway. But there was, we work with a couple now, and there's a lawyer that came to us a few months ago, and I was a bit, all right, I'll take the phone call. And then I got on the call with them, and they are lovely. They were so nice. They were just genuinely just authentic peeps, and it was really refreshing. I'm like, you know what, I want to work with you guys because I'm chilled out. I'm relaxed. You're the same. Let's make lemonade. So it was good. So,
that's actually really funny because one of our clients at the moment, we went through the same thing. They are lawyers too. And one of our project managers, Geordie, is particularly chill, like one of the biggest kind of cultural assets that we have here. And he was given this client and initially thinking, oh, they're lawyers, but he comes off every client meeting being like, they're the nicest clients. Like they're so down to earth, like so easy to work with. So yeah, that's really, from an industry point of view, that's really
the agency will produce better work because they enjoy working with these people.
So true.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, and it makes it simple for the client, doesn't it?
I mean, it just makes everything simple. And building a website, whilst it's an investment, it should be fun. It should be fun. So I think just making things fun and simple is very important.
Love that. One last one in terms of finding the right agency. In terms of, obviously, you've got the internal team perhaps speaking to the team at the agency. Should there be any particular roles created internally between kind of the points of contact? What kind of roles should be created there?
So I think, look, it depends on what kind of organization you are in, whether the people on this call, if you're a marketer or you're a business owner yourself or a business development person, we always encourage our clients to have that kind of champion internally that will, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but I have a conversation with one of them. I say, who is going to be the go-to? Who is going to be the key contact person on your end? Not this person. In an accounting firm is generally just the admin or the CSA. I will really try to, in the initial strategy phase, because that's what I help with, I'll really try and make it fun and light for them. So then they'll kind of say good things about us to the other guys. So I think you need that kind of internal touch point to kind of really get behind it and champion things. I think that's, first and foremost, one of the best things, beneficial for the agency and the client. And then having key individual or individuals who would be involved in the production of your content, of your messaging. Because again, remember I said, clients, you guys will know more, and any of us agency folk will, in terms of who your clients are. You'll know them a lot, on a much deeper level than we will. So being involved in that process, I think, is pretty important as well. Depending on your budget, if you've got a big budget, you can get an awesome copywriter in to do it for us, but it's very important to be willing to put in the time to develop your content as well. And also training. You need to know who are going to be the key people within the business who are going to need to be trained on how to update with the website, how to add content, how to change content, and so on. So, which is usually the first person that first person I talk to, the one that kind of champions the project and schedules all the meetings and gives us feedback, consolidated feedback, and that sort of stuff. The huge point, please give your agency consolidated feedback. Because then you will get, I think you mentioned before, scope creep. Then they'll come back and they'll go, okay, thanks for your feedback. And then you'll send more feedback on. Oh, sorry, we forgot about this. And then you'll send more. And then the agency will come back and say, we can do this, but here's an estimate to do it for you.
Right. Gotcha.
And that's a terrible experience. And I hate doing that. I don't like to do it. I try to avoid it if I can. So yeah, consolidate your feedback, please.
Yeah, no, that's massive. I had one other question, and this is from Amanda as well, just in terms of what you were just saying about updating the website. Just how can you manage, or how do you manage website upkeep over time? So you mentioned this might be an agency action as well. If you were to kind of have sort of an ongoing relationship, that should be kind of assumed. But are there any other kind of tips there, things that you should be updating over time?
Yes. So it depends on your platform, where you build your website. If you built it on WordPress, for example, because that's one of the most widely known used ones, HubSpot will probably be a lot easier to upkeep, and it's a lot more automated and systemized and so on. But with WordPress, depending on what functionality you've got on your website, you can have chat, you can have meeting integration, you can have proposal software integration, social media, all sorts of, you could have Zapier doing 20 different zaps to your website, and it just all starts to become really complicated. An agency, if you don't feel comfortable in doing those, maintaining your website and your upkeep yourself, ask the agency if they have maintenance packages. And each month you pay them a monthly fee, which is inclusive of your hosting. Okay, but you pay them a monthly fee, and once a month or however often they need to do it, they will go in and do all of the core updates and do all of the, making sure that it's the latest version of the CMS that you're using. All of your plugins are updated, your website's backed up. If anything happens when you're updating things, there is some backups that you can restore. There's many things that go into a very complex website that you would build in WordPress, for example. If you want to do it yourself, I mean, it's just a case of making sure that your website host has secure, it's secure hosting, but it has regular updates. And before you go in and update anything on your plugins or update the latest version of WordPress, for example, that you update your website. You back up your website in case anything should happen. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely, that does. Yeah, thank you. I had one more question. I'm not sure whether you guys in the audience have any more, but do let us know because we're in our last 10 minutes, so be sure to put them in there. But I had one you mentioned earlier on about website videos, and I know at the moment we're looking to kind of do our own internal website kind of header video, but I had seen some research about incorporating audio as well. How else could people look to incorporate video and perhaps audio on their website?
So brand video is something I'm big on, showcasing who you are as a people, as a culture. I think those culture videos are really powerful, especially from a professional services perspective.
For sure.
If it's done right. It's very hard to get lawyers and accountants in front of a camera. But yeah, so doing a brand video is great. Having that on your homepage or your about page is fantastic to kind of keep people engaged and to advance them to the next part of their user journey as well. Obviously, video on your blog. If you're doing video, if you're comfortable doing that, if that is your content format, have video on your blog as well. One really different way to do it. I actually was at a conference. I'll say I was at a conference. Guess where I was? I was at Inbound 4 years ago or something.
Way.
I was there with Trav, actually. I ran into Trav, so he was there.
Oh my goodness.
So that was a good time. Nice rooftop bar sessions and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, just to make everybody jealous. Yeah. Anyway, and I went to a session with, what was his name? Marcus Sheridan, and he's a great content marketer out of the States. He owned his own pool company, and during the GFC, his company was going under and everything, he decided to do content marketing. It lifted his business. He's now a millionaire, all this sort of stuff. His company's doing fantastic. He's franchised and so on. He was talking about, he's a great salesman as well. He was talking about on his contact page, or where there's a form on their website for someone to fill out, there's a video to click what to expect after filling out this form. They click on it, and there's one of the guys from one of the pool company website. One of the guys there saying, "Hey, it's Rich," or whatever his name is. After filling out this form, we're not going to call you and like bombard you with all these sales messages. Like, this is what you can expect. And they educated them on the process, and their conversion rate was huge. Go and look up Marcus Sheridan, the pool guy, he calls himself, and he has these really cool stories about how he uses content and video on his website. It's great. It's really,
that is awesome. Yeah. I know we probably tried to incorporate something similar. We recently did a campaign around content marketing, and on the actual homepage itself, there's this kind of awkward video of me being like, fill out the form that's here. Here's kind of what to expect. But yeah, the idea is it's so human and so helpful and like genuine. That's awesome. Have you seen then? Is that anything that you've come across recently?
Look, I see everyone doing podcasts and doing podcasts on their website.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you can do that in terms of content, but I mean, it really depends on what you have on your website. You know, notifications for your chat, and that sort of stuff. You know, that's obviously a common thing. If you've got chat functionality in your website, you can have notifications for that. Yeah, look. We don't really focus too much on audio on the website. It's also the visual component.
Yeah, we've sort of been testing, just targeting kind of every possible angle in terms of what people, how they want to consume content. So on our blogs now, we've got kind of the written content, the video, which is kind of just an iteration of the content, and then the audio file. So yeah, that's interesting as an option, but yeah, awesome. So yeah, unless anyone else had any more questions, guys, feel free to chuck them in the chat. If not, we'll get back to you in our recap email. We'll just hang in there for a few minutes while you put any questions in. Trav's actually reading a book at the moment about the band talking about, I believe, Ty.
Yes, I think I have that somewhere in my book collection. It's not here because I actually. Hey Trav, you may be jealous about this, or you may have done it yourself. But I was walking through where all the stands and everything are, where everybody sells their merch, gives away swag and all that sort of stuff. And I ran into Marcus Sheridan at his agency stand. He gave me a copy of his book, had a good chat, got a photo with him. We spoke for like 5 minutes. He signed my book. And yeah, we're connected on LinkedIn and everything. It's great.
Wild. It's real when you got that LinkedIn connection. That's so good.
Oh, yeah. It's official. We're best buds now,
Literally.
When travel opens up again, we're going to go barbecuing by the lake or something in wherever he's from. No, we're not. He has no idea who I am now.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Tyson. That was unbelievably valuable. I genuinely learned so much. I hope you guys did too. We'll send through this recording. It'll be up on our YouTube channel, and we'll send through the recording in our recap email as well. And I'll include some of the information we ran through today. If you have any feedback, please let us know. That'd be super helpful. But yeah, for the most part, thank you so much, Tyson. That was wonderful.
No problem. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. See you next time, guys. Bye.